great love in the afternoon, so roll back the covers.
Doing something you enjoy and getting paid for it.
The secret life of an American wife.
Can't read that. Tonight we begin with a fire disaster. It's now said 20 people are known dead, 13 more are feared dead in a fire that destroyed a nursing home. We'll have live team coverage, and we'll also have these stories.
I'm Bob Miller in Elmhurst, and that's a Red Cross worker who's trying to ease the shock for one of dozens of people who have lost all their worldly belongings in an early morning fire. Details coming up.
Motorists and residents who have to use a certain section of 83rd Street in the Bensonhurst section of Brooklyn may find themselves in a rut. I'm Doris McMillan. I'll explain why.
This is Storm Field, and I'm on the bridge of a supertanker, which I just ran aground. I'll have that story.
Also tonight, the New York City Cold War shows it means business, the man who is replacing the senator, Esposito's last game, and a good deal more in a moment on Eyewitness News.
My sugar sure can cook.
So can mine.
At supper time, I've got 20 men and 1 dog to feed. All beef eaters. Look at Butch. He loves beef. Mighty Dog pure beef. They don't fool around with Mighty Dog.
Of all leading brands, only Mighty Dog is packed full of pure beef. The others aren't. See, they're mostly meat byproducts.
So get your beef eater, Mighty Dog beef for dogs in the single serving can. For pure beef, it's the only one.
1904. The Prim Twins fly 2 seconds non-stop. Ovaltine is there. 1925. Barry O'Brien does a perfect figure 6. Ovaltine is there. 1958. Peggy Potter hooters her hoop 80 times. Ovaltine is there. For 75 years, Ovaltine milk flavoring has given kids vitamins and minerals they need and the good, rich, chocolatey taste they love. Ovaltine milk flavoring, because parents know what's good for kids, and kids know what's good.
Dynasty starts Monday at 8. This is Eyewitness News with Roger Grimsby, Bill Butel, plus Bruce King, Storm Field, and the Eyewitness News team.
Good evening, I'm Roger Grimsby. Here now the news. The toll heavy. 20 are known dead in this winter's second devastating fire in this area. This most recent one, seemingly as intense as the one last month at Stouffer's Inn, certainly is tragic. The scene this time, New Jersey. The victims, elderly and retarded residents of a rest home in Keansburg. The fire spread quickly through the building. There were smoke alarms in the building. Sprinklers were at one time required. That was waived, and at the time of the fire, there were none.
But they were waived by a waiver of the Department of Health.
Why?
I would not be able to answer that. I would direct you to the Department of Health.
When was that, sir?
The waiver was in September of 1980 by Dr.
Goldberg.
Solomon Goldberg.
We have records at this point, and we really haven't reviewed them to that extent, but the records indicate a waiver that would cover the sprinkler system, would cover the width of the doors, and would cover the size of at least 3 of the rooms in the facility.
We just heard from the Monmouth County prosecutor and the state police chief speaking at a late afternoon news conference. Now, if you need information about relatives you think may have been at that rest home, you can call a special hotline area code 201-741-3443. The telephone number again is area code 201-741-3443.
The fire at the Beachview Rest Home in Keansburg broke out just before dawn, intense heat, and it trapped many of the victims who were sleeping. We've had reporters on the scene all through this day, and Gloria Rojas begins our team coverage now. Gloria?
Bill, neighborhood people are reacting with indignation and shock when they learn that the Beachview Rest Home didn't have a sprinkler system, it had a waiver. That's because many of the people in this area had befriended the residents of their home, and now their grief is mixed with anger. They believe that this rest home probably was too dangerous. Well, it certainly is too dangerous right now because police and firemen have had to stop their search for some of the bodies they think are still inside. It took several hours for firemen and policemen to remove the bodies of the victims. Very early on, when rescue workers were taking account, they knew that 29 people were missing. The first arriving firemen say there was no way to go in and rescue the people who'd been trapped inside.
The intensity of the fire was so great, I don't think the guys could have got to the front of that building.
Were there any people still in there trying to get out?
We were told on the radio that there were people inside.
Was there any chance of going in after the people that were in the building?
Well, they got as many as they could out. I think that's about all they could do. The other people, I think, were really gone before we even got there.
What was your job when you got here?
Well, I was to help the elderly people who were outside in the snow and carry them to the ambulance.
They were outside and without any winter clothing or blankets or anything?
In their night clothing.
What was their condition?
They were frightened and cold, scared.
4 a.m., 111 people sleeping and 6 employees on duty. That was the situation that made this fire so tragic.
The fire was coming out of the top 4 windows on the left on the 2nd floor, and you could see it like spreading through the building.
It was too hot for anybody to go in. If the firemen would have tried to go in, they would have been burnt up themselves. It was out of control. It was totally out of control. They did what they could do from the outside. I live right across the street, right behind the bar here, and by the time I got dressed and got my clothes and I get outside, the place was up, and I only seen small flames at first.
Did you see any of the people being let out?
Well, we helped the people out the back. When I first came out, there was people around the back, and there was a couple of officers and a couple other people with us in the back, and we helped them to the buses. They had buses here. We put them on buses, and they took the people down to the local firehouse.
The Beachview Rest Home was home to some young and middle-aged people released from state mental institutions, to elderly people also, and to some handicapped residents who required some nursing care.
Our building totally complied with the state fire code for this type of an operation.
How many exits in the building, and how many of them were open?
All the exits are open. They have crash bars.
How many?
Doors are locked.
Do you have smoke alarms?
Yes, sir.
Are they electrical smoke alarms?
Yes.
Are they in every room?
Every room, hallway, closets, stairwells, boiler room, electrical room.
Were there sprinklers, ceiling sprinklers in the building?
No, sir, we're not required to have them by state law.
In the early morning cold, relatives and friends gathered at the scene. Those who waited for the missing lost hope as the hours passed.
We talked with Sergeant O'Hare, one of our local police, and he said that she's not on the list of the people that they found. And if she's one of the ones that were in there, they can't identify them. They're burned too bad. So it'll be a few days before we know.
The bodies of the victims were taken to a temporary morgue just a few blocks away. Identification will not be an easy task. John Slattery starts his coverage with that part of the story.
The temporary morgue is set up about 6 blocks away from the fire scene at the local rescue squad headquarters. It will take so long to identify the bodies because many of them are so badly burned and because there are so many of the bodies. People here at the scene are surprised at the number of people dead, but they're also surprised at the number of people who lived.
We were quite surprised that such an extensive conflagration could result in so many people getting out.
Yes, while the death toll is shocking, there are other surprising figures from the fire. Out of the 11 residents taken to Bayshore Community Hospital, only 3 were serious enough to be admitted. 8 people, surprisingly, were treated and released. Even more surprising were the scores of elderly residents who were able to get out of the blaze completely unhurt, rushed to a nearby rescue squad headquarters. More than 70 elderly residents, uprooted in the night, rushed into the cold, half-dressed, now just trying to comprehend the traumatic events that brought them here.
How so many got out under the conditions, and they heard the fire alarm and they moved. They've had drills and all, and they did well. They helped one another, you know, and it's tremendous. As they were only, you know, the night staff was on, but the people, they helped one another.
It's unbelievable that they could do this.
Yeah, tremendous.
The Red Cross provided emergency food and clothing to these people, many of whom were able to say they were just thankful to be out alive. But this small building represents more than just warm temporary quarters for the survivors. For the victims' family members, it's a beacon of hope. Family members coming all morning fearing the worst, but hoping once inside they'd see the face of an uncle, a father, a mother.
My sister's mother-in-law was in the rest home, and she's one of the people missing.
My sister is a resident of the home, and she's on a missing list. I want to find out what happened.
The few minutes it took to get inside and check seemed like an eternity. For those who found their loved one, joy. For those who didn't, more worry.
My sister's still on a missing list. She isn't on any list in here, so I have to wait to find out what happened.
The survivors who were brought to the temporary quarters were transferred to other rest homes earlier today. The questions now: why was a sprinkler waiver granted for the beach view, and why did 33 people have to die? Roger Sharp looks into the question of safety for the beach view and the question of safety for other New Jersey institutions.
The Beachview home was one of 191 licensed shelter boarding facilities in New Jersey, housing about 15,000 people. 2/3 are the retarded and former mental patients from closed state institutions. The rest, the elderly, with no place else to go. Today's fire, very like the one last July, just 10 miles away at the Brinley Inn in Bradley Beach, where 23 were killed. 10 victims locked inside their rooms. No negligence charges resulted from the Brinley fire, but state regulations for such facilities have already been made stricter by the Jersey legislature. Officials here in Trenton find irony in that both today's fire and the one last summer were both in better homes. There are dozens of others that are far worse fire traps, because despite all the state money spent, you cannot legislate genuine caring and compassion. There will be calls for investigation, but the man who knows conditions best says stop being shocked.
Don't be shocked of another fire like this tomorrow or next week, especially in the winter. The faulty wiring, the faulty heaters, the person being over-sedated and smoking. I don't know what you were going to investigate. I think everything has been documented. Is there unsafe housing? Yes, there is. Are there a lot of sick, helpless, defenseless people in that housing? Yes, there are. Is there enough of a commitment being made? Obviously, there isn't.
If Jack Fay's ombudsman's office in New Jersey is unique, no other state has moved as far in centralizing control over such homes. But New York and Connecticut both have similar regulations and problems. It's not a question of only the age and rundown conditions of the homes. New buildings can easily burn too, as the fatal Stouffer's Hotel fire in Westchester showed so dramatically last month. Nor is it a simple matter of mandating added safety equipment, such as sprinklers. The sedated, dazed, and confused people living in these facilities actually require very special protection and attention.
Are there going to be other tragedies? Yes, there are. Are there going to be other horrifying incidents? Yes, there are. If we just keep going the way we're going. These people don't have priorities. They don't have clout. They don't have lobbyists. The boarding home industry have lobbyists. They don't. These people are chattel. These people are there to be taken. We've deinstitutionalized, but we've put them into some other levels of hell where there are right now.
In Jack Fay's view, our practice of warehousing and forgetting is a national scandal. And it's not just a question of money. A lot of money is being spent. For each person boarded, the shelter home operator in New Jersey gets $369 a month. Is there profit in keeping the system as it is? Says Fay, there's no operator here going bankrupt. Roger?
And in Rego Park, Queens, another fire. Many families do not have homes tonight. They were forced out of their apartment house by flames early this morning. That story we hear now from Bob Miller.
The first report of the fire came at 2:37 a.m. A total of 97 families lived in the building. Firemen say they were hampered by the narrow streets, the fact that only 2 hydrants were available, and of course the cold. A taxi driver who lives in the building reportedly was among the first to spot the flames. He ran inside and began pounding on doors.
And then my husband went to the terrace, and he looked out. He saw this big ball of fire shooting out through the window. And then we grabbed our baby, and we ran out of the house with no shoes or nothing. We just ran for our lives.
About 170 people were forced to leave their homes. Some were able to salvage a portion of their belongings.
We're trying to get you someplace to stay for the time being.
Right, and here I am worrying about whether it's luxurious
or not. The best thing you can do is take this stuff, put it back in the apartment, lock it up, and go downstairs, we'll register you, and we'll get you in a place to stay. Then when you get settled down, you can come back and get whatever you have to get.
You're right.
This is the New York Association for the Blind's Queens Lighthouse. It's just about a block from the fire scene, and it's here that the Red Cross is set up in efforts to help the fire victims.
What are your children's names?
Arun, A-R-U-N.
Where's your son now?
I took him to my sister's house.
And couldn't you stay there?
No, because there's not enough room for me and my son and my boyfriend to stay there.
But what will you do now?
Well, I don't know what am I going to do. Just have to go get somewhere furnished or something, or try to get on the welfare.
The Red Cross will see to it that the fire victims get food and clothing. The City Relocation Center will see that they eventually find someplace to resume their lives. In Elmhurst, Queens, Robert Miller, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Coming up next on Eyewitness News, icy roads and iced-up trains. And later in the program, you're going to see Storm Field run a supertanker aground. General Alexander Haig defended himself against those who question his role in the last days of the Nixon presidency. Also ahead, we have this story.
Planning your weekend? This is Tracy Egan. On tonight's Weekend Report, I'll tell you about Old Blue Eyes singing for cancer, concerts and Shakespeare for young people, and a winter wonderland in Central Park.
How did the United States develop the technology to pull ahead of the Russians in the space race? Many believe there was a sophisticated guidance system salvaged from a crashed UFO that helped us reach the moon. Does the Air Force actually have the wreckage of a flying saucer and the bodies of alien astronauts? This startling new motion picture tells the story of the UFO cover-up. See Hangar 18, rated PG.
Now showing for a limited engagement, don't miss Hangar 18.
As New Jersey's largest furniture stores, Huffman Coos obviously has a lot of furniture. But what's more impressive than the quantity of our selection is the quality. And that quality doesn't stop there either. Unlike most stores, we inspect every piece before delivery. Our salesmen average 14 years experience. And finally, we even provide an interior decorating service. Huffman Coos. Deciding on furniture isn't easy. Deciding where to buy it should be.
From Cleopatra's time, there has been one secret that women of legendary beauty have passed on: henna for hair. Now, VO5 introduces a new shampoo with essence of neutral henna. This golden amber shampoo lathers richness into your hair. VO5 with neutral henna brings out the body, the shine, the natural beauty without changing the natural color. Discover the newest Alberto VO5 shampoo with essence of neutral henna.
And pass on the secret.
I kept my promise, don't keep your distance. I kept my promise.
Evita at the Broadway Theater.
There will be no rest for those weary of the cold over the weekend coming. It's going to stay with us, and once again, commuters on the Long Island Railroad have gone through freeze-up delays, switches, and other equipment jammed up by the ice. More on the story now. Vince Lipari is at our Long Island Bureau as the Hempstead Station. I'm frozen up. Vince?
That's right, Bill. It's very cold out here. The question tonight is, how did the Long Island Railroad do today after a dismal week? Well, actually not that bad. There was only one cancellation, and that was the 412 from Hunters Point Avenue to Montauk. And there were only scattered delays from 5 to 10 minutes. Earlier we spoke to some commuters who were coming off here at the Hempstead train station, and those trains were actually just a few minutes late. You're only a few minutes late.
Only a few minutes late, that's good enough for me. A few minutes beats an hour, right?
How was train service today?
A little slow.
Yeah, but you're only a few minutes late on this line today.
Just a few minutes.
Yeah, that's an improvement, huh?
Well, since the beginning of the week, yes.
And during this morning's rush hour, the situation was also much better than it's been all week. Sure, there were delays and cancellations, but only about half as earlier in the week. Of the 133 trains scheduled this morning, 4 trains were canceled, 61 ran late. Delays range from 6 to 45 minutes. On other days this week, delays had run to more than an hour and a half. So the week that started out so miserably ended on a note of relief.
It was okay today, better for a change.
Yeah. Were you surprised?
Not really, because every once in a while you might catch a good train.
So why was it a good day today, and much better anyway than the days earlier this week? Simply because it wasn't as cold today as it has been the rest of the week, so there weren't as many breakdowns and equipment failures. But I spoke to a Long Island Railroad official, and that person said that luck had a lot to do with it too. So to the people who are taking the Long Island Railroad come Monday, here's good luck to you. At the Hempstead train station live, this is Vince Lipari, Channel 7 Eyewitness News. Roger?
The freeze covered a Brooklyn street with ice because of a leak. That story we hear now from Doris McMillan.
What can I think? Nobody can go through. I see everybody gets stuck here.
83rd Street between 16th and 17th Avenues in the Bensonhurst section of Brooklyn has been glazed with ice, about 6 inches of it. This street looks like a skating rink and a parking lot because of this, a broken pipe, and it's been like this for about a week. Apparently, the leak is coming from a pipe from this house, but there's a debate as to who should fix the pipe, the owner of the house who wasn't available to give an interview, or the city.
They tell you conserve your water, make sure your faucets aren't dripping, and they leave the water running in the street. One person says it's their fault, and the other person says it's the other. The city came, and they claim it's not them, and the people claim their plumber told them it wasn't theirs. I don't know whose it is, but somebody should fix it.
Is we're going to, you know, shake the trees a little bit and get the private plumber to perform. These fellows are doing the best they can. There's a lot of bursts all over the city because of this uncommonly cold weather.
Well, no matter whose fault this is, Inspector Smullen told me that the leak should be fixed by later this evening, and he says then the sanitation department can come in and work its magic by getting rid of all of this ice. In the Bensonhurst section of Brooklyn, this is Doris McMillan, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
They say we're fighting a war on cold. Mayor Cott said that today, and New York City does claim to be doing its part to provide relief for people who have neither heat nor hot water, including the provision of more than 2 million gallons of home heating fuel, and in some cases, putting landlords in jail.
We want the heat and hot water restored. If a landlord willfully refuses to do that, then my position is put him in jail.
And the city is beefing up its no heat campaign, including 46 additional workers for the Central Complaint Bureau, more overtime pay for heat inspectors, more heat inspectors hired to the payroll, and more inspections scheduled. The mayor says the city is making inroads against the backlog of complaints about no heat. More than 385,000 calls in that vein have come in since the cold weather began, and New Yorkers are making use of the emergency quarters that have been set up in the Armory at 141st Street in Harlem. If you have to leave your apartment and want to use the Harlem Armory, there is a new number to call, and that number is 553-5682. 553-5682, and of course it's area code 212. Roger?
Told now to throw it to Storm. Storm, where are you?
Huh, where else, Roger? I'm here in my office with the little window you gave me. And I've been looking out this window, and it's been awfully cold outside. How cold, you ask? Well, think about this. The average daily temperature, the high for the day since the 1st of January, has been 26 degrees. The average low, 17 degrees. You put all that together, and you come out with an average temperature every hour since January 1st of 22 degrees. That means all this January so far this year, we have been 10 degrees below freezing. And it's not going to change. This is going to be a bitterly cold weekend. Remember Christmas? Remember New Year's? One more time, but I'll tell you all about that a little later in the program.
Thank you, Storm. Well, I guess we have a problem with the cold. Long Island Lighting has a problem. A regulator went wrong, and about 350 homes in Island Park on Long Island have, or at least had earlier today, no natural gas, and will not have it till the Lilco people can get into each home and turn off the gas for the sake of safety. Lilco asks that if yours is one of the homes affected and you expect to be away for a period of time, they ask that you leave a key with a neighbor. A Lilco serviceman will then go in, and he'll have with him for security reasons a policeman and turn off the gas. Lilco hopes to have the job done in Island Park by 8 o'clock tonight. Roger?
When Eyewitness News continues, we'll be talking about the confirmation hearings for Alexander Haig, the nominee for Secretary of State. He defended his actions while advisor to Richard Nixon. And Vince Lipari will fill you in on the man who replaces the senator when we return.
Now ShopRite does the can, selling lots of brands of everything in cans. Today it's great to save some cash, so come to ShopRite's Can Bash from can to can to can to can. You'll save much more on every brand. You'll save much more on every brand. Now's the time to shop at ShopRite's Can Blast. Now's the time to stock up while the values last.
ShopRite applesauce, sweet peas, or Del Monte tomato sauce, 4 cans, 99 cents.
with Sugar Twin.
You know, every calorie counts.
And Sugar Twin has fewer calories than even the leading sugar substitute.
Look great and show it. Shape up with Sugar Twin.
Only 1.5 great tasting calories a teaspoon.
Go for it, get there. Shape up with Sugar Twin.
For fewer calories.
Fewer calories than even the leading brand. Switch to Sugar Twin.
Shape up and go for it. Join the circus like you wanted to when you were a kid.
Join us. Light up your day and come see Barnum. Step right this way and come see Barnum. Just stick a banner in your hand. Join the circus like you wanted to.
Barnum, Broadway's new smash musical at the St. James Theater, winner of 3 1980 Tony Awards, including Best Actor in a Musical, Jim Dale.
John Houseman for the investment firm of Smith Barney.
The New York Stock Exchange. Trading is over. Some tally their profits, some lick their wounds. And some still look for the ultimate financial formula. For over 100 years, Smith Barney has used only one investment formula. Good old-fashioned hard work. Smith Barney. They make money the old-fashioned way. They earn it.
According to the U.S. negotiating team, serious problems still exist in securing hostage release. Deputy Secretary of State Warren Christopher is still in Algiers, but now Iran has raised new questions regarding the U.S. proposal. Optimists point to the fact that talks continue today, a Muslim holy day, as evidence they may be getting somewhere. Any silver will do when you're lining a cloud.
And while the talks to free the 52 American hostages drag on, Kenneth Taylor reveals details of the way the Canadians smuggled 6 American citizens out of Iran. The Canadian Consul General Taylor says that a year ago the Americans were hidden in his home and in another safe house nearby. The Canadians' great fear was that an American newspaper would somehow find out and blow the cover. Getting the Americans out of Iran was easier. Taylor says he had them buy caviar and other souvenirs of Iran and generally act like Canadian tourists.
The Senate Foreign Relations Committee opened its hearings today on the nomination of Alexander Haig as State Secretary. Haig told the committee that he never violated the law while serving in the Nixon White House. He went on to criticize President Carter's human rights policy. He refused to rule out the use of nuclear weapons.
Clearly, in the nuclear age, the responsibilities in this area become all the more awesome. But the point I wanted to make to you, Senator Pell, and I'd like to use to answer you, Senator Baker, is there are things worth fighting for.
And Haig said we're entering a very dangerous period. The hearings are expected to go on for several days.
Well, with Al D'Amato now off to Washington as a senator, his old job as presiding supervisor of Hempstead Town has been filled by a new man, Thomas Galata, and he was sworn in late this afternoon. Vince Lipari visited with the new Hempstead supervisor.
Assemblyman Thomas Galata, at 36, will be the youngest Hempstead Town presiding supervisor in Long Island history. Galata lives in North Merrick with his wife Betsy and his 2 young sons and 15-month-old daughter. This afternoon, he was looking forward to being sworn in and starting his new job.
I'm very privileged and very proud to be in a position to represent the residents of this great town. I think probably the 2 basic issues are the question of garbage and waste disposal and the tax burden. What I do intend to do is to put a great deal of emphasis on constituent service.
Galata's 3 children aren't fazed by their father's new job as the leader of Long Island's largest town, but Betsy Galata knows that her husband's new responsibilities will mean a new life.
I imagine that I will be able to attend more functions with him, which I will enjoy, and I'll know more of the people in the area. I'll know more of what he's doing in this area than when he was away all the time.
Do you think it's going to be more hectic?
Oh, yes, I think so.
Yeah. So life in the Galata household might never be the same again after tonight's swearing-in ceremonies. The job of Hempstead Town presiding supervisor has been sort of a good luck charm for many politicians who've gone on even to higher posts. Among them, now Senator Al D'Amato. In Merrick, this is Vince Lipari, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Still ahead on Eyewitness News, real accidents and fake accidents. The real one hurt 17 people in Brooklyn in the Park Slope section. In the fake one, Storm Field got behind the wheel of a supertanker in a way and cut loose. We'll have those stories. We'll have more in a moment.
Here it is, the beginning of a new year. Time to move out the old and bring in new merchandise to Kaufman Carpet's giant warehouse. The best way to do this is by cutting prices, and that's what Kaufman has done. Over 20,000 square yards of choice carpets, over 2,000 different patterns and colors. Carpets that sold for $7.99 to $13.99, drastically reduced to save you $3 to $5 a square yard.
Start the new year off right and get more for your hard-earned money. Friday and Saturday at Kaufman, the carpet experts.
Death Trap. Death Trap. Broadway's smash comedy thriller is an evening of laughs and screams and fun and games and murder. Ira Levin's Death Trap is sheer terror and pure delight. Death Trap, starring Robert Reed on Broadway at the Music Box Theater. Murderously funny.
For 30 years, I've been a hairdresser in Hollywood, where hot lights cause dry hair. I never found anything better for dull, dry hair than Alberto VO5 conditioning hairdressing. We use a touch of VO5's concentrated formula before setting or combing to put hair in healthy-looking condition, so it looks natural, easier to comb. VO5 could be just as fabulous for you. Give your dull, dry hair the star treatment with Alberto VO5 conditioning hairdressing.
Ripe tomatoes, Romano cheese, herbs, spices, garlic. That's Italian.
All-natural ragu, that's Italian.
Several people were hurt in a bus accident in Brooklyn early this afternoon. At least 17 people were involved in the accident. They were taken to 3 hospitals in the Park Slope area of Brooklyn. One of the injured was the driver of the truck hit by the bus, and he's said to be seriously injured tonight. The bus driver was not harmed. The remainder of the injured were passengers aboard the bus, and the collision occurred just a little bit before 1:30 this afternoon at the corner of Green Avenue and Classen Street in Brooklyn. A transit authority spokesman says the bus traveling along Green Avenue slammed into the side of the truck. Neither vehicle was traveling too fast.
The giant supertanker is here and has been for some time, but it has raised some questions regarding safety. Storm Field reports now on efforts to make them safe.
This is what can happen when a supertanker hits something and springs a leak. A ship like this, among the biggest vessels afloat, carries 250,000 tons of oil. The ship itself costs $50 to $75 million. So the sinking of a supertanker would be an ecological and economic disaster.
Give it 20 degrees left rudder.
This is the supertanker simulator at Marine Safety International in Queens. Several major oil companies use this facility to train their crew members on how to pilot a tanker safely.
And we'd much rather practice this type of a situation here in a simulator rather than have this happen for the first time in real life.
This camera behind me gives the pilot the view that he's actually on the bridge of a ship as he's entering a harbor. And as you can see, the harbor itself is a large mock-up. Looking at it makes you think of a model railroad layout. And there are lots of other mock-ups of other ports too, so captains will be practicing on harbors they actually use. When the special cameras and projection systems put the pictures up on screens, it looks very real from the ship's bridge. This is a mock-up of an oil tanker port at Milford Haven in Wales. Am I going to hit this tanker in the channel?
I would be readying one of the lifeboats at this point.
Oh, no. Piloting a supertanker into a port is like trying to drive the Empire State Building down Fifth Avenue. Supertankers are 1,100 feet long, 250 feet wide, and fully laden have a draft of over 100 feet. Even at the slow speed of 8 knots, it takes at least 2 miles to stop. Imagine what it's like trying to steer something that big.
We're going to do damage to this operation simply by the sheer presence of our vessel going past that vessel in such close proximity at this speed.
I mean, oh, in other words, just the swell of us going by this fast, even if we don't hit them, we're going to cause damage.
That's right. We've already caused damage. Now we've run aground.
We ran aground?
The bow of the vessel, you see, has run out of the channel behind this jetty. I think I'd give you, considering your first shot at this, I'd give you about a D+.
A D+? Well, now I know what the captain of the Titanic must have felt like. Bill?
He didn't even get a D+. Still ahead on Eyewitness News tonight, Tracy Egan's weekend preview. She's going to tell you about tickets to the Frank Sinatra concert and the Colgate women's games when we come back in a few moments.
I thought Cons was good. I didn't believe they could put that good a meat in there.
Shoppers at this store were really surprised to see what goes into Cons beef franks.
This is good.
If this type of meat is in this hot dog, then it's good meat.
I didn't know they were that good. I knew they were good with that.
Only first quality cuts of beef. No fillers ever with Cons.
Cons brand was new to me, but I've used it and I like it.
I trust Cons.
Great meat makes great franks. Depend on Cons.
Commodity futures look good, but I suggest something really bright, like the Bloomingdale's Limelight Sale, where the spotlight is on Alcide lamps. This floor lamp, regularly $75, now $59. Alcide's wall swinger, regularly $75, now $49, both in brass and chrome finishes. This swirl lamp by Alcide, regularly $75, now a new low $49. Things look bright with a savings of 20 to 40% on hundreds of lamps. At the Limelight Sale at Bloomingdale's, it's like no other store in the world.
The critics are raving about Sugar Babies. Walter Kerr of the New York Times said, "I had a grand time. Mickey Rooney is hilarious. Ann Miller is stunning." And Life magazine said the American musical theater has never been more raucously merry. Mickey Rooney and Ann Miller in Sugar Babies, the burlesque musical at the Mark Hellinger Theater. For tickets, call Charging 944-9300.
The startling story behind the men who rule the Supreme Court. The Brethren, the #1 national bestseller, now an Avon paperback.
Inflation at the wholesale level, 11.7% for 1980. Now, with a 3-cent a gallon hike in the price of heating oil, diesel fuel, and gasoline, 1981 is beginning with an inflation potential worse than the one left by 1980. The Labor Department says the year ended with 7.6 million people out of work and looking. December unemployment, 7.4%. December a year ago, it was 6%.
The weekend is upon us, and young Green Eyes is going to tell us what to do. One of those things has to do with old Blue Eyes.
I thought they were brown.
You don't have green eyes. Why did I say that?
I don't know, Bill. Most of what's happening in tonight's lineup is downright cheap, but with inflation being what it is, there are at least a few women in town who figure the price of seeing their singing idol hasn't really gone up that much in the past 40 years.
How much would you pay to see old Blue Eyes sing? She just told me she'd pay $100. Just walked out. Sure, I'd pay $100.
The ladies are in luck. $100 tickets to the Frank Sinatra benefit concert from Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center are available at the Radio City Music Hall box office. Others in the audience will pay as much as $1,000 to hear Sinatra, Rich Little, Sarah Vaughan, and Count Basie. New York City girls, Long Island, and Hudson County, New Jersey girls will compete each weekend this month in the Colgate Women's Games at Pratt Institute. The games offer $30,000 in grants and aid for schooling to encourage girls to first stay in high school and second aim towards a higher education. On any given weekend, Lincoln Center's cultural offerings are tops, and this weekend something special at Avery Fisher Hall for children, the opening of the 32nd season of Happy Concerts for Young People. The familiar Peter and the Wolf highlights the opening concert entitled Animal Tales and Music. The series has become so popular, it now offers 2 Saturday concerts instead of 1. Another offering for children at the Museum of the City of New York. 17 puppets act out tales guaranteed to delight the young set in Carnival of Animals. And this city honors the late Martin Luther King with a series of films on important Black Americans and Black art at the Brooklyn Botanic Garden. And tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock in Central Park, the Great Lawn turns into a winter wonderland for all of you who would like to go outside and brave this cold and put on some skis. They're going to have free ski equipment for you to try out, and they're going to give you some lessons. Have a good weekend. Roger?
Julius Barbanel teaches math at Union College in Schenectady. He's come up with a formula for huge. It is The number K is huge if and only if there exists an inner model of M of V and an elementary embedding I from V into M such that K is the first cardinal move by I and M is closed under I of K sequences.
He's right. He's right. He's absolutely right. Chess and other sports. Bruce King and the Titans of Chess. In a few moments when Eyewitness News continues.
The good life has its advantages. Among them, the Dream Spun sheet by Fieldcrest. Next to your skin, pure, soft cotton percale, touched with satin. And yet Dream Spun requires no ironing. Cost more? Of course. The good life always does.
Now, the Dream Spun sheet by Fieldcrest at Bloomingdale's Talk of the Town White Sale. The good life made affordable.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Pirates of Penzance, Kevin Kline, and Estelle Parsons, and Linda Ronstadt, and Rex Smith, and George Rose, and all the cast invite you to Gilbert and Sullivan's very model of a smashing Broadway musical, The Pirates of Penzance, on Broadway.
Reserve your seats by telephone. It really isn't very hard. Before you start, call this number. Use any major credit card.
Watch, and we'll show you how to make real Italian spaghetti sauce the way Italians have made it for generations. Start with luscious Progresso tomatoes. Add a little Progresso imported olive oil, some Progresso Romano cheese, and Progresso herbs and spices. Now, what sauce in a jar could ever compare with that? This one can. Progresso home-style spaghetti sauce. The only one made with the same Progresso ingredients Italians have used for years. So for real home-style spaghetti sauce, make it Progresso or make it yourself.
January 4 through 10, 1981. You want warehouse price savings on good food for your family, and Pathmark is there. Wilson bacon, 1 pound, $1.19. Marvell turkey breast, 99 cents a pound. And a 5-pound tube of ground beef, $1.19 a pound. 24 hours a day when you want something. Pathmark is there. We're Pathmark, we're always there.
Thousands of Poles are determined not to go to work tomorrow. The general strike to underline their demand for a 5-day work week. There have been some Russian rumblings in reaction. So much for the exit polls. It's expected in a few days China's highest court will pass sentence on the widow of Mao Zedong. She says she's ready to die. Most observers do not believe she will be executed for those crimes against the state of which she has been convicted.
Phil Esposito and a little more hockey tonight and Bruce King in sports.
One more game before he retires, and that will come tonight as the Rangers meet the Buffalo Sabres at the Garden. And how will Esposito feel about putting on the skates for the final time? He has this to say.
When I get out there tonight, I think that it's going to be so emotional for me. I just wish that, I hope that I play a good game, and I hope that I work my rear end, ooh, I can't say that. I hope that I work my tail off to the point where the fans know that this is my way of saying thank you to them, my salute to them. I didn't have any other way to do it except for going on that ice and waving at them and saying thank you very much. And this is my salute to them.
While Esposito is playing his final game for the Rangers tonight at the Garden, young Ron Duguay returns to the lineup for the first time since his injury over 2 months ago. Mike Berry has this report on the popular right-winger.
Ron Duguay's hopes of a full, healthy season were interrupted last October in that Donnybrook with the Flyers. Somebody skated over the back of his right ankle, severing a tendon. That forced Doogie to miss 29 games, and much of the last 10 weeks has been devoted to tedious rehabilitation, anticipating his return to the lineup. Now that time has come. Sitting out is no fun at all, and Ron Duguay is more anxious than a kid at Christmas to be back in the Ranger lineup. He'll be on the line with Phil Esposito and Dave Silk. Doogie skated well in practice this week. He looked like his old self and did not appear to favor that injured ankle. He's happy to be back. Ron, what was the toughest part about sitting out?
Well, it's very frustrating because to go to the Garden and watch the team and, you know, they're having a tough time. Sometimes I just wish I can go out there and help them out, you know, and I guess that was the toughest part for me. It was, you know, it was very frustrating.
What will be the biggest adjustment you'll have when you're back in action?
Well, it's probably my timing, because it usually takes a while. I've only been skating now for 2 weeks, and the pace out there is so fast, so my timing is probably going to be the toughest thing.
And so Ron Duguay's comeback is here, and after weeks of frustration and rehabilitation, he says he's ready. Mike Barry, Eyewitness Sports.
Turning to basketball, the Knicks are still upset over that basket interference call at the end of last night's game that cost them a win over the Pacers. Time running out in overtime. They have time for one final shot against the Pacers. Get it in. They go, as you'll see here in just a second, to Ray Williams. Williams will get the basketball as the clock ticks away, under 10 seconds to play right now. Williams breaks out to the right side, gets it, will drive to the baseline, put the shot up. Now Sly Williams, when the ball misses, will tip it in. Should the basket have counted? Should it be basket interference? You'll watch it here again in just a moment. Was the call a right one? Did the ball have a reasonable chance to go in before it was tipped? You can't touch the ball while it's inside the cylinder. The question is whether the ball was short and outside the rim. The referee, Tommy Nunez, says the ball was in the cylinder. That's why he made the call. Too tough to see, really, on that play. But the Knicks upset. Meanwhile, the Nets, who have now lost 10 in a row, are at home tonight against Phoenix. In football, it's supposed to be 10 degrees or below in Philadelphia on Sunday for the Dallas game. The weather forecaster calls for temperature in the high 60s in San Diego for the Chargers game with Oakland. Ed Horowitz, who calls himself an investment advisor for people who gamble, says the Charger-Oakland game, well, it's too close to call, but he has an interesting comment about the Eagles game with Dallas.
I think the Philadelphia Eagles will beat Dallas and beat them fairly convincingly. We've come up with something on the computer which has accurately picked 11 out of the last 12 Super Bowl winners. There are three key ingredients that a Super Bowl team has to have. They have to have won their opening game of the season, which both Philadelphia and Dallas did. They have to have scored 23 points in at least half of their game, which both Philadelphia and Dallas have done. And they also, sometime during the season, because it's a mark of defense, have had to shut out an opponent. Dallas has not shut out an opponent all year. Philadelphia has. We think Philadelphia is going to win today, and not today, Sunday, and I think they're going to win 2 weeks from now, too.
I disagree. I'm going to go with Dallas and Oakland. Okay, in upsets. Bill?
Why not, Bruce? People in the news tonight. The actress Julie Harris is in good condition at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center here in New York City. Her doctor says only that they found a serious illness and it was early enough to correct it with modified surgery. No other specifics. Miss Harris is 55 and her play Mixed Couples closed last Saturday because of her illness. It's been a while since we've heard of Korchnoy's complaint, and in fact, so far as we know, he has none right now. Viktor Korchnoy is the Soviet chess master in exile, and in Merano, Italy, he has won the right to meet the world chess champion Anatoly Karpov for the world title next summer. Korchnoy's only possible complaint is that he won by default in Italy because his opponent withdrew from competition. But anyway, he's going to get into the final game. Roger.
Storm will shortly be along with the weather forecast. You shouldn't end a meal with an appetizer, but Bob Lape will end the program with one.
The Robinsons enjoyed life and did what they wanted to do. But now...
I'm leaving, Bruce.
The government wanted them out. Mountain Family Robinson, coming soon to a theater near you.
When do you use Soup Starter?
When the kids eat early, but David's home late. That's when Soup Starter soup is great.
A crispy salad, bread, and rolls, Soup Starter makes a good meal. 5 steaming bowls.
Soup Starter from Swift. Hearty homemade soup for dinner. Just add fresh meat and let it simmer.
At 6:37, I'm out the door. I made Soup Starter soup the night before.
Cook smarter with Soup Starter.
Great soup.
Santa Fe's new Piggyback. A new design that weighs in 35% less than a conventional flat car. 10 units to a car. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The longest single-unit car in the world. Santa Fe calls it the 10-pack fuel foiler, an energy-saving idea that holds down the cost of food and everything else you buy. Now, on a 4,400-mile round trip between Chicago and Los Angeles, we use 1 less diesel, save nearly 6,000 gallons of fuel. With all the ruckus going on about energy and oil these days, couldn't have come along at a better time.
Charlottetown's got Elvis from hound dog to private first class, a quickie wedding California style, and Moscow's hottest disco. Tonight at 7:30 on Channel 7.
The latest count of the dead in the fire at a rest home in Keansburg, New Jersey is now 20 dead, 13 still missing, presumed dead. We have an update, and we go back to Gloria Rojas on the scene. Gloria?
Bill, throughout the day, that number of missing persons gradually became a death toll here at the Beachview Rest Home fire in Keansburg. At least 29 people, they say, were trapped inside and had no way out. 2 people were killed as they got out. Miraculously, 80 people, some of them elderly, some of them retarded, got out safely. The fire began at 4 o'clock, an hour when most people are sleeping, and that was part of the reason why this has such a high death toll. Of course, there is another reason some people believe, and that is the fact that there was no sprinkler system. State law requires residence homes like these, for the elderly and for those released from state institutions, to have a sprinkler system. However, at a press conference late this afternoon, the prosecutor from Monmouth County and the head of the state police in New Jersey said that there was no sprinkler system here, that the place had gotten a waiver since September 1980. There will be an investigation into the cause of the fire, but a great deal of the focus of investigations here will be, why did that place get a waiver? We'll have more information on the 11 o'clock news. I'm Gloria Rojas, live in Keansburg.
And here in New York, jury deliberations have begun in the abscam trial of Congressman Raymond Lederer of Pennsylvania. Lederer is a Democrat. He says he's optimistic about the way the trial is going to come out when it begins. Roger.
And now Stormfield of New York.
I'm also a little bit less than optimistic about the way the weather is going to turn out this weekend, unless you like cold weather. In that case, no problem, lots of dividends moving our way. As a matter of fact, the temperatures right now at 23 degrees Fahrenheit are about as warm as you're going to be seeing over the entire weekend. If I were you, I'd go outside and enjoy it right now. This is springtime. What's going to happen this weekend is going to be unbelievable. -5 degrees Celsius, humidity no problem, barometric pressure holding steady, winds blowing from a west-northwesterly direction about 7 miles an hour. We did warm up a bit today, a little warmer than I thought we'd be, about 1 degree warmer as a matter of fact. We had some southwesterly breezes that brought some milder air in. Our high today was a big 24 degrees. The low was 14 degrees, and we're going to be in that ballpark figure tonight. Normal high and low for this day, 38 degrees and 26 overall. Remember I told you a little earlier in the program how cold it's been this first 9 days of January. Well, as an example, this is exactly the kind of weather you'd expect if you lived in Portland, Maine, or Juneau, Alaska. As far as our air quality goes, it was fine today. Tomorrow's going to be good. And for that cold air that's making its way towards us, well, you can see it right in here. A large fair weather mass dropping down out of Canada, polar continental air, dropping right into the midsection of the country. Temperatures today in the single digits and below 5 degrees over most of this area from North Dakota into Minnesota and Wisconsin. That entire air mass is moving towards us. You've got an upper airflow that's guiding all of it right at us, so expect some gusty winds moving in along with this tomorrow, and also with that some very cold weather, which is going to make it feel much colder than that. We've got a little area of unsettled weather in here that's going to be making its way towards us. That's just going to keep us in clouds tonight. We've got a storm system off the coast that's going to be moving away from us. There's a possibility that the combination of the two might stir up a few flurries, but nothing much in the way of accumulations, or nothing much really to worry about. We'll come back and tell you about some very cold weather making its way towards us right after this.
Patty Duke, Barbara Parkins, and Sharon Tate in the steaming bestseller, Valley of the Dolls.
Tomorrow night, 11:30.
Linda, I need a towel.
Only Linda knows what lurks behind this door. Towels. From the winter white sale at Abraham and Strauss. All cotton Sonata bath towels by Fieldcrest.
At 2 for $9, even Roger shouldn't mind.
And Cannon Royal Family Sheets twin size, just $3.49.
What a buy.
Linda!
Oh, Roger.
The winter white sale at Abraham and Strauss. Irresistible. Now through January 31st.
Around this town, one name stands out, whether you choose butter, margarine, or both. Hotel Bar, freedom of choice.
Our satellite picture tonight shows a lot of clouds across the Great Lakes. Actually, again, it's a little bit too bright for you to tell too much by it, except you got some clear skies across Florida and most of the southeast. This afternoon satellite picture for yourself. Again, lots of clouds right across the northern border of Florida, a lot of clouds around the Great Lakes, some snow up there, but once all that moves through, clear and very cold weather out to the west of that, making its way in towards us. So our forecast for the rest of tonight, continue to overcast, a possibility of a few scattered flurries, temperatures dropping off to about 13 degrees late tonight, which is pretty much the same as it was last night. Then tomorrow, slow clearing as the day goes along. We get into some sunshine, but bitterly cold weather as that Arctic Express moves in. 19 degrees will be the high. But wait, it's not over. Nanook's delight as we move into Saturday. Temperatures 2 degrees here in town, below 0 in surrounding suburbs. And then on Sunday, well, if you want some warmth, go to Siberia. Much warmer than it will be here. Temperature only 15 degrees expected to be the high here in New York, which means Bill Butel will be sitting by the fireplace, cozy and warm. Right, William?
If I do that, my apartment will burn down. You remember Wednesday we told you about the plight of Lambertville, New Jersey, the town with enough water to last no more than another 24 hours. That was on Wednesday. With time and water running out fast, the town is rushing to lay down a new system of pipes to replace the old pipes that froze. Well, the pipes are now in. The problem is they're not yet using them. The town is still drinking reserve water. Officials of the town, though, say they expect to have water pumping through their new pipes sometime late today, saving Lambertville in the nick of time. We hope it works.
Now to the heavy stuff. Can you imagine an Afghanistani dessert without a Russian dressing? Believe it. Oh, I'll at least believe Bob Lake.
One of the very tastiest ethnic restaurants to come to New York in years is Little Afghanistan, Dr. Zia Jagori's little spot at 106 West 43rd Street in New York City, where all the food is excitingly different and distinctive and tasty, and Chef Mohammed John turns out such dishes as an appetizer to remember called sambosa. Gentlemen, how do we do it?
A little onion, and a little bit of vegetable oil to saute his ground beef.
Okay,
it's a prepared chopped, yeah.
Now, there's your ground beef, and
Yes.
this is half a pound or in that neighborhood.
Yeah, it's about half a pound. Put a little salt and then chopped ginger.
Oh, fresh chopped ginger.
Fresh chopped ginger. Chopped garlic, green pepper, garlic, the parsley seeds.
Parsley seed.
Black pepper, and a little of
chickpeas.
If it's too hot or...
I see, softening up the chickpeas a little bit here.
And give it
little mash work.
Yes.
This is blended in as well.
And this next step takes the tiny dough and they put those gradients that he made inside and seal it.
Pinching the edges?
And pinching the edges. Then they put inside the oil, which is prepared. So you can buy this from any grocery, Chinese. It comes prepared.
The sambosa is accompanied by a beautiful light sauce of yogurt, mint, and garlic. And it is just what the doctor ordered at Little Afghanistan. Let us try this now. Steeped in sauce and... Laziz.
Thank you.
Perfectly acceptable Afghan word for delicious. Little Afghanistan, the place, 106 West 43rd Street, just off 6th Avenue. That's where you find it and many other delicious new things to your taste buds. Write for the recipe for sambosa, free if you wish, or write to me. I'm Bob Lape at Channel 7, Eyewitness News in New York. Thank you, sir.
Hoping your news is good news, I'm Roger Grimsby.
That's our news for tonight. Next on Channel 7 is ABC's World News Tonight. I'm Bill Butel. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend and good luck.
Eyewitness News is recognized by the Associated Press as New York State's best regularly scheduled newscast. This is Gil Hodges. Here with a Channel 7 editorial is Cliff Love, editorial director of WABC-TV.
Governor Carey's recent proposal to allow the state's prison inmates to build closed-circuit television systems for installations at all New York City subway platforms is the latest attempt to make subway travel safer. Closed-circuit television equipment is already being produced at the Albion Correctional Facility near Rochester, but is used by the Corrections Department. State prisoners already produce about $20 million in goods, and that amount could be greatly increased if this large order gets support. Permission is needed from MTA Chairman Richard Ravitch, and money must be approved by the legislature to set up electronic shops. The MTA would be sold the equipment at cost